So our step 1 is completed, where we have added the VHDL source into our design, right? So you'll be finding Flow Navigator is very helpful when you start working with Envivado, because this helps us to determine what specific step we need to perform next, right? So you'll be finding in a project manager, okay, so you have this 4 option, right? So you have a setting. Now setting allows us to change the type of a language and the board. Along with this, we also have a different setting that we could vary, right? So most popular usage include that on a run, if you want to change the board, or you want to change the type of a language that you are utilizing, but this also we rarely do. Along with that, as we progress further, you'll be understanding the different strategies that we choose for the simulation as well as synthesis, implementation. All the option that you have for all these steps could be varied by going into a setting, right? The next is an add source. So here now you could see we have a 3 option. This plus button, go to a design source, right click here, you could add the design source, and the third way is to add a design source over here, right? Then the language template. So if you stuck somewhere, for example, if you are designing the memory, okay, and you want to find out the typical format that you have for the distributed memory, so in that case we could just go to a language template, okay, and then search for distributed memory, right? So this will automatically take us to this folder, right, where we have a block ROM, distributed RAM, okay, and then distributed ROM. So let us assume we want to include distributed RAM, single port distributed RAM, okay, and then we could just proceed like this, okay. So these are the primitives that are available. Along with this, okay, so along with the primitive, we also have a synthesizable construct preview available, right? So if you just go to a synthesis construct, so there also you have a RAM, okay, available, and in the coding example also you have an RAM example, right? So we are looking for a coding example. We could just go to the distributed RAM, and then we could just look for a template, right? So if you want to invoke a distributed RAM, you could just take the help of this code and generate your own RAM, right? So this is how we could use a language template whenever you are stuck somewhere, okay. So for specific kinds of the block, you do see the template available in a language template, right? Then an IP catalog. So we already discussed IPs are the code which are provided by a Xilinx, right? So in a complex system, we do not design each and every block. So some of the blocks we will be utilizing from a Xilinx itself, right? For example, if you are working on a transmitter, so designing a filter itself is a big task. So in that case, we could just go ahead and look for whether we have any IP available from a Xilinx, right? So we'll just go to an IP catalog and then look for FIR, right? So we do see the filter available, right? So we'll just reconfigure this IP to meet our constraint, and then we are ready to work with the filter, right? So various IPs are available freely with your license. We could just look for the IPs. If it matched to your requirement, you could just add it into your design, right? So all the IPs are divided into multiple categories. So you could see the different categories are there, right? So we have a digital signal processing categories, basic IPs, basic elements, okay, and along with that we also have a different categories of an IP. So whenever you are designing a complex system, so some of the block could be automatically generated by utilizing an IP. So you could just go and look for an IPs, and then you could easily add them in your design, right? So these are all the options that you have in a project manager, right? After this, you start with an IP integrator, right? So you could see here you have an add source. This specify the text based specifying the source for our HDL, right? So we have 2 ways by which you could specify the design entry, okay? So the HDL code that we specify for a project, okay, is referred as a design entry when we talk about the entire FPGA design flow, right? So here when we consider an add source, so that is basically a text based way of specifying the design entry. The other way around is to specify the schematic based design entry, and that is done with the help of a create block design, right? So as we progress further, we'll be understanding more on this, right? So these are the two ways that we have to specify our design. The next step is the simulation, right? So you have your code ready. Okay, so this two process basically generate the source code. Okay, and in fact we need to write an entire logic, right? So after performing this two step, you have your design source ready. Okay, the next step is to verify whether it is operating correctly, right? So we'll just be going ahead, and here you have your and_12, right? So we haven't added any test bench code yet, but this code itself could be utilized for performing the simulation. Okay, and that could be done by manually applying a stimulus, right? So that option is available with a Vivado. Okay, and you could see when you do not apply a test bench, your design source itself behave as a simulation source into a simulation source folder, right? So when you do not specify the test bench code, your design source could also be utilized to perform a functional verification, right? So that is what we're gonna do. See that if you have a multiple source code, okay, the source code for which you are performing a functional verification is set as again top, right? We'll just go ahead and click on run behavioral simulation, right? So you have multiple options over here. So these two options will be enabled after you perform synthesis, right? And then these two options are enabled after we perform implementation, right? So these are next step. You could clearly see after simulation we have a synthesis and then implementation, right? So as you complete your synthesis, you'll be finding these two options will be enabled. Okay, and after you perform an implementation, these two options will be enabled. Right now these are not enabled because we haven't performed synthesis as well as implementation, right? We'll also be understanding why these options are added. Okay, because behavioral simulation itself will verify that our system is working correctly or not, right? We'll just go ahead and click on run behavioral simulation, right? So without test bench, you'll be finding with all the nets have been added into our waveform viewer, and all of them have an undefined value because we haven't specified any stimulus for an input, right? So you could see all of them are undefined, right? So we have an A and B which act as an input, and Y which serve as an output, right? So when we consider the manual way of applying the stimuli, okay, so we have two options. So you could select any of a net. We have A and B, right, which serve as an input. So here we will be applying the stimulus, right? And then to perform an execution of this stimuli, you have this option over here, right? So you have a restart, okay, and then run all and run for a specific duration, right? And the time you need to specify over here. So here, since we have an invalid stimulus, right, or the default stimulus, we could just click on restart. So this will again start our simulation from 0, right? This is the usage of a restart that we have. Now to apply a stimulus, we have two ways, right? One of a way is to specify stimulus one after another, right? And that is by utilizing a force constant, right? So you could see we have two options. First one is a force constant, other one is a force clock, right? So we'll be understanding usage of each of them in a detail. So let us first try force constant, right? So when we add a force constant, you could specify the value that you want to apply for any. So let it just apply 1. Okay, you could also specify the offset time. So if you specify, let us assume 10 or 5 picosecond, right? So your A will be high after the 5 picosecond, right? And prior to this, it will be with the default value, right? So if you haven't initialized the net, you'll be getting an undefined, right? And after 5 seconds, you will be getting the 1 value, right? You could also specify the cancel after time offset, right? So for example, if you want to apply the value of 1 from 5 picosecond to 15 picosecond, right? So you could specify the starting time as 5 picosecond and end time to be 15 picosecond, right? So our A will be high from 5 picosecond to 15 picosecond, right? So this is the usage of this force constant that we have. So let us just hit OK with the default option. And for B also we'll be utilizing the same, right, value of 1, because ultimately the get that we are testing is an AND gate, right? So let it just hit OK. And for an output, we do not need to apply anything, right? So we'll just be executing this for, let us assume 100 nanosecond, right? we'll just be specifying 100 nanosecond, and then we'll be clicking this. Okay, so this option will allow us to execute our stimulus for 100 nanosecond, and you could now see, okay, so from 0 to 100 nanosecond, which is our execution time, A and B both are 1, and this results into Y as 1 also, right? So this is one of the way. So when we consider A and B, we have two combinations for A, that is 0 and 1. Similarly, B also have a value of 0 and 1, right? So the total combination that you want to apply to correctly verify the design functionality is 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, right? So 4 possible combination, and if you utilize a force constant, you need to apply these 4 values, right? But now if you just try to utilize a force clock, okay, that is an alternate way of applying the stimulus. Okay, so let it just select a force clock, right, and then a leading edge value, let us assume 1 and 0, okay, and the period is 100 nanosecond, right? And then we will also be utilizing a force clock for B. Here also we'll be utilizing same edge, that is 1 and 0, okay, but the period that we'll be choosing over here is 300 nanosecond, right? So when we use the same period, so both of them will change to 1 at same time, and both of them will change to 0 at the same time, right? So in that case, you will be able to verify 1, 1 and 0, 0, but you won't be able to verify 0, 1 and 1, 0, right? So for that reason, we are varying the period, right? So let's just hit OK. And then in this case, we will be executing our code for 1000 nanoseconds. So if we just consider, right, for an A, we choose a period of 100 nanosecond, right? So for 50 nanosecond, you could clearly see that our value is 0, and for next 50 nanosecond, our value is 1, right? So this is how we decide the period, which is 100 nanosecond. And for B, if you see, so we have a period of 300 nanosecond. So 0 will be for 150 nanosecond and 1 will be for 150 nanosecond, right? Now if you just compare, right, so here if you place your marker, so you could able to see what is the result when we have A value as 1 and 0. Okay, so this check one of our combination. If you place our marker over here, so here you could check A1 B1, right? Here you could check 0 1, okay, and here you could check 0 0. So with a single go, okay, with a force clock, you could verify all the possible combination for single bit variable, right? But for a multi-bit variable, you simply could not proceed with a force clock. So force clock allows us to force only single values. Okay, so you could generate the clock signal for only a single bit. In a multi-bit bus, if you try to apply force clock, you'll still be able to see only changes in a one of a bit of vector, right? So you won't be able to generate the clock with multi-bit vector value, right? So if you specify the clock for a multi-bit signal, in that case only single bit will be toggling, rest of the bit will be simply undefined, right? So now we understand the step number 2. After you specify your design entry, it may either be the text-based source or it may also be a schematic based source. Okay, the next step is after you complete your entire source code to perform a simulation, right? So simulation is used to verify whether your design is working correctly, right? So we understand the two way of applying a stimulus, and these are the manual way of applying a stimulus, right? So you have a force constant and you have a force clock, right? So force clock with a single bit variable are more advantageous as compared to force constant, but in a case of multi-bit vector, we need to go with a force constant, right? So the next step is an RTL analysis, right? So the code that we have written, we could just close this simulation window. I will just go ahead and close this simulation window over here. Okay, so here we already know the symbol, the logical symbol for an AND gate. So we have two views of the HTL that we have written, right?